Y'all, I swear, all the Bethesda YouTubers share the same 10 brain cells. Like, we all saw Oblivion Remastered and went, I want to punch things. So here's my video punching things in Oblivion Remastered. Can you beat Oblivion Remastered as a monk? Rules are pretty simple for this run. I can only deal damage with my fists, and I'm not allowed any armor. I can use spells, enchantments, and powers in order to improve my armor rating and damage resistance, but I'm not allowed to wear anything listed as light armor or heavy armor. And before we get into the video proper, if you like these kind of videos, be sure to like and subscribe. I put out a new one of these kind of videos every other Friday. But now, let's introduce you to our hero for this challenge, Snow. Snow is a Khajiit monk dedicated to the god of madness, Sheogorath. She finds herself imprisoned in the Imperial City, but just her luck, who but the Emperor would come by to break her out of jail. Making my way through the tutorial dungeon really isn't that much of a challenge. I can make my way through here without attacking anything if I really need to, but the rats and goblins don't pose much of a challenge even with just my fists. Meeting back up with the Emperor, and he asks when my birthday is. I tell him it's today, because the day this video goes up is actually my birthday. I chose the Lord Star sign, because for some reason they decided to make it to where it now gives you an armor rating of 15 and magic resistance of 15%. I don't know why they decided to give it such an incredible buff, but it's going to be great for me since I can't wear armor. Before heading into the sewers, Boris guesses I'm a knight, despite the fact that I haven't even touched a weapon or armor, and I proceed to make my class. Now, Oblivion does have a monk class, but they added things into it like marksman, which I don't feel really fit the vibe of like a traditional monk build, and definitely are off the table for this run. So I created my own class with a combat specialization, favorite attributes in strength and intelligence, and major skills of acrobatics, alteration, athletics, hand-to-hand, illusion, restoration, and sneak. I wasn't feeling very creative at the time, so I just called it Monk 2. I made my way through the sewers, accidentally beat down the friendly sewer rat, and made my way out into Cyrodiil. Then I went to take out some bandits so I could test out the hand-to-hand. Honestly, I'm doing more damage than I thought I would. I feel like this might be a more viable build than I thought it was going to be. I took out the bandits pretty easily, and then I went to the Imperial City and bought some clothes that didn't make it look like I was part of the group trying to end the world, before heading off to see Joffrey at Wayne Priory. Then I just kind of wandered around Cyrodiil for a while, just kind of playing the game until I realized I was actually recording a video, and made my way to the Kavach Oblivion Gate. Honestly, I found myself doing that a couple of times in this run. It's just a beautiful remaster of my favorite game of all time. I just wanted to play it. But I made my way into the Oblivion Gate, and honestly, my fists were still putting in some really good work. I beat down all the scamps and Dremora in my path, closed the gate, and went on into town to find Martin. I told him he was the Emperor's son, and he believed me way more readily than he probably should have, and we made our way back to Wayne Priory. And if you're wondering, no, I did not help retake the rest of the city. I could say it was for a role-playing purpose, since this character is the monk of Sheogorath and all, but honestly, I just couldn't be bothered to finish the quest. Back at Wayne Priory, the Mythic Dawn had staged an attack. We were able to get to the chapel in time to save Joffrey, but the Mythic Dawn had managed to get the Amulet of Kings. Wayne Priory was no longer safe, so we had to get Martin up to Cloud Ruler Temple. Once we got there, I was happy to see that the janky blade salute was still left intact for this version.
Accept him.
Hail, Hail! Hail!
Your Highness.
Next up was meeting with Boris in the Imperial City, but before I did that, I decided to stop by Frostcrag Spire. Frostcrag Spire was one of the player homes that was in the DLC of Oblivion, and honestly, I am glad they put those in this version. And I know that seems like, well, yeah, of course they would, but there really was no guarantee, because the Game of the Year edition of the original version didn't include the player homes, it just included the two major DLC expansions. For some reason I had to pick the lock on the front door of it. I never had to do that in the original. I don't know if that's something they added here, like I was supposed to get a key or something. I don't know, it was just Navar's lock though, so I got in pretty easily. I wanted to open up Frostcrag Spire so that I get to get access to spellmaking, but to kind of fast forward a little bit, I am terrible at the Oblivion spellmaking system, so I never actually made a useful spell. Oh well, it's nice to have a home I can fast travel to. I talked to Boris, we beat up a guy in the basement of the tavern, and I was off to find some books. I slept at the inn that's in the market district overnight, so that I could wait till the bookstore was open. And when I woke up, I walked out to this. I don't know why everyone's just kind of standing there staring at each other as if they're talking. They're not saying anything. Are they speaking telepathically? Is this some sort of ritual? Is it Oblivion being Oblivion? Yeah, my money's on the last one. Anyway, I went to the bookstore, and he actually had one of the books I needed, but someone had already bought it. All I had to do was wait for that person to get there and pick up the book. Then I told him, hey, these people are the ones that killed the Emperor, and he wanted nothing more to do with the book, and handed it right to me. The last book I needed could only be gotten from the Mythic Dawn themselves, so me and Boris needed to head down into the sewers to meet up with the Mythic Dawn. Before I met up with Boris, though, I tried to go out to the waterfront and wait to let the conjurer that usually shows up there show up. I was just curious to see what his spell tone was going to be this time, but before he could get there, Boris showed up. Yeah, I didn't actually realize he would track you down in the Imperial City. I would tell y'all to go tell Nerba he's got a new chase run, but you have to meet up with Boris to continue the story, so guess that one's not going to work out for him. When we got to the meeting spot, Boris said he wanted to be the one to go meet the sponsor. But I've played this game before, and I know that's basically a death sentence for him, so I went ahead and met him instead. And hey, you can't say I was inhospitable, because I fed him a couple of lovingly made knuckle sandwiches. I was able to keep Boris alive, and then I went to turn in the books. Or that's what I would say, but I got distracted again. I decided I wanted that invisibility spell that you can get from the Dark Brotherhood merchant, so I snuck in and helped Jair sleep better, before Lucien LeChance came to me in a dream and told me to go take care of Rufio, the Innivel Omen. Skipping ahead to the Shadenhall Sanctuary, I did buy the invisibility spell, but I also bought an invisibility potion, and then duplicated it, and just used that for my invisibility for the rest of the game. Really all it did is it saved me the time of having to sit there and grind out illusion levels. Don't worry, I still had to grind out some levels later on in Alteration, but this kept me from having to grind them in Illusion too. While I was in the Sanctuary, I decided to take a quest from Vicente, and ran into a bug that I think is new for this version of the game. For some reason, he just didn't have hair. Now, I've been playing on another file, and I've started the Dark Brotherhood. I know he's supposed to have hair, but for some reason, he just doesn't here. Honestly, it's just great to see the new developers keeping the spirit of Oblivion alive, not just by preserving some bugs, but also adding some new ones. After that distraction, I did end up making my way to Tarmina to deliver the books. But I've played this game before, so instead of waiting for her to decipher them, I just went to the tomb at noon and got the location of the Mythic Dawn base. I decided I didn't want to have to deal with him taking all of my stuff from me, so I just started punching as soon as I got inside. None of them were really able to hold their own against me, especially since half of them don't even summon armor, so I was able to get through, grab the Mysterium Xarxes, and even rescue the prisoner. On the way out, I realized it was actually a good thing that I decided to come in fist blazing, because the storeroom keeper glitched out and became invincible. That means if I had let them take all my stuff, I wouldn't have been able to get it back. But I made my way through the caverns, got back to Cloud Ruler Temple, and took out the Mythic Dawn spies that were set up nearby. During the fight against the Mythic Dawn spies, I realized that even though I'm still putting out pretty good damage, I am taking way more damage than I'd like to take right now. So I spent the next 30 or so minutes grinding out my alteration to level 50, so I could cast the higher level protection spells. Once I got done with that, I went and got a Daedric artifact for Martin. Any Daedric artifact will do, and most people go for Azura's Star at this point, but I decided, given the role-playing for this run, what better artifact to use than Sheagorth's own artifact, the Wabbajack. Also, assuming you're at the level for this quest to start by this point, it is by far the easiest
Hello there.
to get. In fact, you can get through the whole quest without even attacking anyone. For Sheagorth's quest, you need to go to the nearby little town of Border Watch, and basically bring about their apocalypse. They have this prophecy that the end of the world will come when there's 3 specific signs, and your job is to make those signs happen. The first of these signs apparently just is a rat infestation. So all you gotta do is get some particularly smelly cheese from the local inn and put it in the communal cooking area. Now you can just pick the lock on the case to get the cheese, but I really didn't want to do that. I was really struggling with the lockpicking for some reason. So I just decided to try to pickpocket the key off of the innkeeper. And I'll let what happened next just play out for you.
By the gods, there's a psychopath on the loose.
You're always welcome in Border Watch.
Welcome to Border Watch. What is it?
In yet another case of Oblivion just being Oblivion, this guy just saw me beat down the innkeeper in cold blood, and then came behind the counter to say, "You're always welcome here, buddy." I love this game. Anyway, I got the cheese, set it out in the communal cooking area to bring in the rats, and then the town put out powerful rat poison, which I then used to poison their livestock. That's 2 signs down, just 1 to go, and that's all on Sheogorath. And I would say for this final sign, he made it rain cats and dogs. But that would only be half true. Well, with that all done, I went to the Shrine of Sheogorath, and he gave me the Wabbajack. It's a staff of immense power that has completely random effects, and it's honestly one of the more powerful Daedric artifacts in the game. So of course, I immediately turn it into Martin to destroy it. I like to think Sheogorath would get a good chuckle out of that. Get a staff of unfathomable Daedric power, and then destroy it to open a door. Because if I hadn't mentioned it already, that's basically what we're using the Daedric artifact for, is to open up the portal to paradise. Everything you have to get from Martin ultimately is for opening up that portal. At that point, an Oblivion gate opened up near Bruma, so I was sent out to Captain Bird to teach him how to close them. I've been leveling up throughout this run, so the Daedra inside were a little bit more difficult, but they still didn't really pose much of a challenge, especially with Captain Bird and the 2 nameless guards at my back. We closed the gate, and when I made my way back to Cloud Ruler Temple, I realized my game crashes now every time I go through this specific door. I don't know why, but it happened like 3 times in a row, so I never tried going through that door again. Now it's time to go get the blood of a god. Specifically, I need to get the armor of Tiber Septim, who became Talos, because it has a little bit of his blood on it from when he was mortal. Honestly, making my way through this dungeon to get the armor was a lot easier than I anticipated. I've trained up enough in hand-to-hand that I can punch ghosts now, so they really didn't put up much of a fight. I thought the Ancient Blades might be a little bit of a problem, but I quickly realized since it's one-on-one encounters, I could just keep them stunned until I was able to take them out. So I grabbed the armor, and now it's off to Miscarcand. Miscarcand wasn't too bad. It was a little more difficult than the last dungeon. I had to be careful around the skeletons and zombies, because even though I was doing good damage to them, they were also doing good damage to me. That said, never once did I think about just running through and letting the undead and the goblins fight it out amongst themselves. For some reason, I just insisted on taking out every enemy on my way through. I was worried about the lich that spawns when you grab the Great Welkin Stone, but I just rushed him with my fists, and I was actually able to take him out before he could do a single point of damage to me. In fact, looking back at my recording, the fight lasted all of like 13 seconds, and that includes the time for me closing the gap between us. Honestly, the zombies that spawned after that are usually his backup, put up a whole lot more of a fight than he did. Anyway, now we're off to close the Great Gate. While I was wandering around one of the many times I got distracted, I did manage to get a couple cities to help in the defense of Bruma. Not that it really matters, because even if you don't get any of the aid, you're usually still perfectly fine. You just gotta make sure to keep Martin alive. Anyway, I think I've shown by now that the Oblivion Gates really aren't that much of a challenge for this build. And this one was no different, so I'll just cut to when the gate was closed and I'm back in Cyrodiil. And just like that, we're in the endgame now. When I got to Paradise, I just drank an invisibility potion and made my way through. Well, except for when I fought Cathutet? Yeah, that's how I'm gonna say his name. I probably just butchered it, but oh well. 1 dunk in the lava later, and I'm making my way to Mankar Cameron. When I got into Cameron's throne room, I rushed him, beat him down, and took the Amulet of Kings. I say that like it was easy, but in reality, I barely made it out alive. In fact, if the game didn't teleport you out of there right after you take down Cameron and grab the amulet, I probably would have had to come back with a different approach. So now all that's left is to go to the Imperial City and light the Dragonfires. Except once we get there, Mehrunes Dagon immediately begins attacking the city. And while it looks dangerous, all you have to do at this point is just run through a couple of loading zones until you get into the temple, where Martin first turns into a dragon, and then into a statue, proving that any character played by Sean Bean will not survive through the story, and that you can, in fact, beat Oblivion as a monk. And with that done, there's only one thing left for me to do. I've heard some rumors of a random doorway showing up in the middle of a lake. Apparently it bears a striking resemblance to Sheogorath, and people are coming out not quite right. So it wouldn't make sense for a monk of Sheogorath to not check it out. Well, that was a fun run. I've always wanted to do a hand-to-hand build in Oblivion, but never got around to it. So when the remaster released, it was just kind of the perfect opportunity for me. I didn't really expect so many other Bethesda YouTubers to also make hand-to-hand runs as their first runs. But honestly, after playing it, I can really see why. It's a very fun build, and I'm honestly looking forward to jumping back in to do the Shivering Isles video on this. It may not be out for a little while. I've got some Fallout to do between now and then. I've actually got, for real this time, the Fallout 4 Settlement video episode 2 coming out this coming Friday. Thank y'all for being patient with me. I know my family emergencies and all that really just kind of threw a wrench into my plans. So just, thank you for being patient with me. Hopefully it'll be worth the wait for you. And hopefully the next run after that, which will be 2 weeks from this coming Friday, will be worth the wait for that one person in the comment who's asked a couple times for a New Vegas run. Because that is the next game that I'm planning on making a challenge for. Honestly, there's probably going to be quite a bit of Fallout before I come back to Elder Scrolls. Because I love the Elder Scrolls games, but right now I just have way more ideas for videos in the Fallout games than I do for Elder Scrolls. Especially since I know a few weeks back in that Skyrim video, I might have promised y'all a specific Fallout 4 run. I don't know exactly when I'll get around to doing that run, but I really do want to do like a Fallout 4 run that's separate from my Rebuilding the Commonwealth videos. Probably within the next month and a half or so. I've just got a couple ideas bouncing around in my head of what exactly I want to do with that. But anyway, that's all for this video. Thank y'all so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, bye!